Now, Hidden Lancashire is a series which we recall the stories of forgotten buildings, people or events that have been lost in the mists of time. Today's edition is a story of what happened when a Lancashire woman bought a piece of land to turn into a campsite and discovered an amazing story lying beneath her feet. Paula Goldman reports from Wood End, near Burnley.
Camping, yeah, well, whether you like inflating your airbed or bashing in your tent pegs, or maybe caravanning or motorhoming at a place like this, it's never been more popular. Now, this is a camping and caravan site at Wood End in Burnley, but the pastime that many people now spend much of their leisure doing is a million miles away from what was going on at this site until only around 60 years ago. This is where the old Wood End colliery once stood. It was part of a proud and mighty industry in the town until it was closed down and demolished in 1959. Now, this site was left derelict until 2009 when it was bought by Carol Johnson, who turned it into the place it is today. Carol, what was the colliery like?
The miners had to be at the coalface by 6 o'clock in the morning or they didn't get paid. And they'd to walk to the coalface here down to 700 feet. There were never any pit baths here, there were never any toilets here. It was a very, very basic existence.
Wood End closed in 1959, pre the infamous miners' strike of the 80s.
It was a very wet pit, and today it's just full of water. I think it was all right up until the war years, and then there was a brief break in production here for the war. And then I know one guy was here after that for about 3 months just pumping it out. Probably just not sustainable.
So take us back to 2009 when you bought this place.
It was completely and utterly overgrown. There was all sorts of stuff lying about.
Did you know at that time that this was an old colliery?
I didn't know. I remember just having a walk around in all this long grass and then tripping up off this big concrete slab. And I just said to my husband, "What's this?" And he said, "Oh, it's the top of the old shaft." I had not a clue up to that point.
And now, as well as the camping site, you've got a museum. What did you discover here?
Some rusty items, pieces that I found lying about when we cleared it. And we had an open day for Marie Curie, and I put them on a table. And I didn't know what they were, but I thought, well, somebody might know. And the number of people who came in and said, "Oh, I know what that is, and I know what this is, and I'll bring you one of those." There was never any plan to open a museum, but this stuff kept coming. And that's how it started, and it's just grown from there.
You've got a model of the colliery as it was. You've even got the huge bellows.
Those are the blacksmith's bellows. If there were horses, they looked after the horses' feet, but they did do the tools for the miners as well.
And further on, an area that looks at the now almost unbelievable fact that young children were used in the mines.
Yeah, babies were actually born in the mines in some cases. Mums have given birth underground and then carried on working. Whole families worked down the mine. Must have been horrendous, but they needed to survive.
The museum is here, tucked away really in a quiet little corner here in Burnley. Mining was a mighty industry, wasn't it?
I would say it's been forgotten about generally since the Thatcher days when they shut the mines. But a lot of the men would go back tomorrow if you were to ask them. You know, they loved their life as a miner. It is one of those industries that there's a great camaraderie. They need each other. They look out for each other underground because their lives depend on each other. And they are lovely blokes. And it was such a shame when the mines closed because they lost not only their job, but in a lot of cases they lost friends as well because people had to go elsewhere to find work. This is a very personal museum full of personal items that the men have brought in that they want to make sure just don't get thrown away, you know. And yeah, there's a lot of feeling behind this museum.
That's Carol Johnson from Smithson's Farm Campsite in Burnley, where you can also find the Wood End Mining Museum.